guys? Welcome to Celebrity Fight Club podcast. I'm here with my man. He's a legend in hockey, a fighter, the one and only Riley Cote. What's up, my man?
Not much. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's a long time. I mean, we've been talking for a while, man. I've been trying to get you in the ring for 6, 7 months now.
I know. Yeah, no, it's great to reconnect, and I love what you're doing. I think it's an important thing, and I think there's obviously we're going to talk about it here today, but just the ability to speak to the mental health and helping support people, not just the fighters, but just anybody that we can kind of affect through these conversations and beyond. So
no, 100%. And you know, it just took us a while to do this. You know, that's what makes it real. You know what I mean? Like we didn't rush into it. It's been step by step. We've been talking, and we're both on the same, you know, I guess the same goals and the same vision with this mental health awareness, because that's a big thing in my life. I know it's a big thing in your life.
Yeah. Yeah, I know, and I think when we first talked, we spoke about me fighting specifically, and we're both fighters in heart. And yeah. I think the fight continues just in a different way, and I think part of the conversation is that the fight for your own life, fight for life, and the fight for the mental health, and just kind of paving a better way, I guess you could say, or helping create a better path forward for a lot of these people that are struggling, right? Because life is a grind, and the odds are almost stacked against you, I think, but just to be able to persevere through obviously individual situations, but finding the tools that help support mental health, because I think a lot of this world is booby trapped with a lot of poison.
I agree, man. I agree 1,000,000%.
Yeah. So to take your platform and just to get an opportunity to speak to you about these types of things and to your audience about, well, obviously you're in the business of promoting. Fights, but also the true warriorship, and the way we've talked about it before is being on the backside of these fighters' careers or fights to support them when it's dark. It gets dark, right? And
man, it's pretty often, man. It's crazy, because it doesn't matter how much money you make. It doesn't matter how much success you get. There's difference. There's success. You know what I mean? Like success comes with the darkness, you know what I mean? No matter what, it doesn't matter how successful you are, man. I deal with different things every single day, man, and it's a fight every single day.
It really is, yeah. And this is not exclusive to fighters, right? I mean, it's just like life is challenging, and as I mentioned, there's so many different distractions and attachments and addictions out there that could rob you of your personal peace and rob you of your goals and dreams, right? And even when you've achieved them, they still seem to swallow people up if you don't have a solid grounding on this planet and with your mental health. So it's across the board, and I think whether it's a combination of stress, self-regulation, or the inability to self-regulate based on stressors and anxiety, things get hairy quickly. So I think we got a great opportunity to educate and speak to from experience, and really, again, I always talk about like creating a new path. Like I say, a new path, but I think the old way, the old system has bogged us down for too long. I think, between cannabis and, say psilocybin mushrooms, but even practices like yoga and meditation that are gaining more, I guess, mainstream attention, even though they're old as humans have been walking the planet. They're not new modalities, but I think the public, people are ready for something fresher and an alternative look to the way we take care of ourselves, because whatever we're doing right now isn't working. The system itself is booby trapped, so.
Yeah, I wanted to get into that. Also, so you're all known as the enforcer. You're with the Philadelphia Flyers for 4 seasons, Philadelphia Phantoms, I saw, and a couple other kids. So your hockey career all started in Canada?
It did, yeah. I grew up in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Played all my youth hockey in Winnipeg. Moved away from home when I was 16 to the Western Hockey League. Spent 4 years away from home in the junior leagues, and then turned pro when I was 20.
Oh, that's awesome. So when you say you turned pro, were you on what was the AHL at the time?
Well, not even that, actually. I wasn't drafted. I could have gone back to junior. They called it overage year as a 20-year-old, so playing in Canada junior leagues, or turned pro, and I landed up going to Toronto Maple Leafs training camp.
Oh, that's awesome.
As a free agent, made a couple big hits, had a couple big fights that I earned a contract.
Yeah, that's great.
But I landed up spending most of that year in the Central Hockey League. So as you talk about a jungle, I mean, it was a jungle down there. I was trying to get out of that league to get into the American Hockey League, and then eventually, in a perfect world, to the NHL. So I was literally talk about fighting out of the bottom of the barrel pro leagues. That was it.
But there's nothing like now you have your career. You can say about it all the time.
Yeah,
I'm a former NHL enforcer, well known in Philadelphia, and if you're a fighter in Philadelphia, if you're in Philadelphia, you got to be a fighter, basically. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you were with the Flyers for 4 seasons, right?
Yep. So 2004, 2005 was the NHL lockout. That was my first taste of Philly. So I signed a PTO, professional trial agreement, with the Phantoms.
Yeah,
the NHL
awesome,
wasn't playing, so the American Hockey League landed up being the best league in the world at the time.
Sure.
So I get a weekend contract that turned into sticking around Philly for the whole year, winning a Calder Cup in Philly.
Man, that's awesome.
Yeah, just the way it worked out, and just being a passionate guy and fighting, and had to get a couple bounces go my way with a couple of injuries, unfortunately, for other guys. Get in the lineup, do my thing. Led the team in penalty minutes, won a Calder Cup. So it started off perfect.
All your achievements. I was reading your Wikipedia today.
Okay, all right.
That's really good.
Yeah, so then another full season with the Phantoms, and then the next year after that, I made the Flyers out of training camp. Was scratched a few games, got sent down to the minors, and broke my ankle. So it was half the season. Came back and played 8 games with the Flyers, and then the next training camp, I made the team out of training camp again, and then stuck around and stayed healthy and had a pretty strong year in my first year there. So
that's awesome, man.
Grateful
did you play with Frank the Animal Bialos?
No, he was before me. But
that's my man. Though.
Yeah,
he's a wild
beauty.
guy though.
He is. He's from my hometown too, Winnipeg.
I was just with him last week. Great guy. We were talking about you. And then I ended up getting you on the podcast, but he's going to actually do the podcast with me. But he was a fighter, man. So he fought 2 pro fights. He was like 1-on-1, but he came in and he knocked this guy right the fuck out, man. It was crazy, bro. and it shocked the whole world. It's like I was all excited for the hockey. So you, with your career, now are you into the boxing? Have you ever took boxing training or anything up for mental health awareness?
Well, while I was still playing, I took some dirty boxing lessons, some Greco-Roman stand-up jiu-jitsu type of stuff. Sure. Just like fighting some Camden cops they'd bring in, like that kind of stuff. Training while I was still playing. But then once I retired, I left a year on my contract and retired at the age of 28.
Damn,
left a one-way contract on the table because I wanted to preserve whatever I had of my mental health. And that was really the decision. Wasn't to. I got into coaching at the time. I was an assistant coach for the Flyers minor league team. It was Adirondack Phantoms at the time. The team had moved up to upstate New York,
right?
While they built out this rink in Allentown. But it was really to save myself. The way, as hard as I was going on the ice, I was going off the ice, and I didn't have the ability to self-regulate. Like I wasn't in tune.
So you're talking about your mental health.
Yeah,
standpoint.
Emotional health, the whole bit. Because as you know, as a fighter, man, the ramp up and down and all around, and in hockey, you can fight 3 times a game.
Absolutely.
I'd be fighting Donald Brashear or Frank the Animal Bialos, whoever, and have to fight that guy again out of the, you know what I mean, in the next period. So like this chronic state of anxiety just fried my nervous system. I was just done, man.
Was that your biggest struggle, anxiety, or what was your biggest struggles, like maybe growing up, or did you feel you got the more struggles after or during your hockey career?
You know what? I never thought I was an anxious kid at all. I was, pretty free-flowing, easygoing.
Right.
Even when I took on the role of being the enforcer when I turned 20, I just decided I was going to do it. And I was excited. There's something exciting about taking on a new challenge in life. And I was a competitive guy, so not that fighting was new for me, fighting for a living. I think the earlier parts of my career, especially when you're fighting from the bottom up, right? It's like, okay, you master one league, you move up, and then it's another league, right? And then you got to master another league. So eventually in the NHL, it's like, okay, so I had a great first year, fought all the heavyweights, and did pretty well against all of them.
How many fights do you think you had in your first year?
In the NHL, I think I had 28 fights.
Damn.
In my first year in the NHL.
28 no?
No, it wasn't 28. No. I definitely lost a few, but I'm an undersized guy. I'm floating around at 185 right now. I played at about 210, 215, but I was fighting, Donald Brashear, George Rock. These guys are floating around 260, 6'4", 6'5". But then, as you know, it's just this added pressure. Obviously, I was allowing the pressure to get to me, but it's like I was a fourth line guy. Let's be serious. I was
Yeah.
replaceable, and you're fighting for your life literally every day, right? So I think the pressures just got to me, and I was living unsustainably. As hard as I was going, as I mentioned, I was going
Right.
as just as hard off the ice, partying and just
Oh,
like
wow,
living the
wow.
life. And
So
you know what I mean?
you fell off a little.
I fell
would you
off,
say,
yeah.
while playing the game plus partying, living the life basically, and you fell off a little bit. And,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I would definitely say I fell off. And I think, when you're working yourself up, I was still partying, had all the
Yeah.
same party habits, but you're younger, you metabolize the drugs and alcohol faster.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And it's like you're living off like fumes, you're living off spirit. But eventually, as you know, like something's got to give.
Sure.
You can't keep living that hard physically. And then in this case, I wasn't focusing on recovery and taking care of myself. So the mind goes, the emotional
Absolutely,
body
yeah,
goes,
yeah.
and everything kind of goes. It's
I've
all
been
connected.
there, man. Yeah.
So I was basically at a crossroads of my life. Like, what am I
Yeah.
doing here?
Yeah,
Do I keep going on this path? Do I go down to the minor leagues? Because I was probably gonna get sent down just the way I was performing. Because performance drops, right?
Was it yourself or like the hockey career? Was it your mentality? That was going. Like you think?
Well, I think part of my mentality was like I was all in, right? I was all in to a fault almost, where I let the role consume me. I say to a fault because you talk about sustainability. Drinking the amount of coffee and taking the amount of Sudafeds and jacking myself
sure.
up the way I was, and then the nervous system. It's just this roller coaster.
Nah, man. Holy shit! I know what you're talking about.
Right?
Yeah.
So like. It was the way I prepared because I didn't have a roadmap on how to do this job. I was just observing other guys that were doing it. It's like act crazy. You got to you got to flex and you got to play the role, but you got to back it up. So I didn't have a manual on how to take care of myself. I was just living hard and just living my dream.
Were you depressed? Like, was there any depression in there with you, or like, what do you think what was getting to you?
Well, I think just the pressure of being, the man, the go-to, the fighter, right? I mean, and but also not
pressure,
even just
yeah.
the pressure, and then it's your livelihood. So it's like you're maybe seeing it slip away, or you're not in the lineup all the time and hanging on. Mm-hmm. But then again, I wasn't exactly that mindful, so I wasn't going home and let's meditate on this and let's figure this out and be better. It was let's go to the bar and drown our sorrows and party.
Right.
So it's a numbing agent.
But
so
isn't it crazy, man? I went through the same thing. I was doing my biggest fight of my career. But I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're good.
But yes, I was falling, man. I was like, I didn't know. You know what I mean? I literally, man, I didn't know I was fucked up until I went to jail. And stupid mistake, man. Drinking, stupid situation. And that's when I was
had a wake-up call.
That was a wake-up call, man.
Yeah.
And when I looked around in jail, I was like, I fucked up, man. It's definitely something but it was the wake-up call, and it was the biggest mistake of my life, but it made me better. And with you, what do you feel like? Was there a mistake you did? And what woke you up and said, I got to change?
Well, I think it was a series of things. I think my last year that I played, we had a new coach come in, Peter Laviolette. John Stevens, who was probably my biggest fan, got fired. Lavi had won a Stanley Cup without a tough guy, so I wasn't playing much that year, and I was just around the team.
Sure.
So now I was drinking even more. I was partying even more. It's okay, I'm not playing, so now I'm and then he introduced Dry Island, which was interesting, which I don't know if you ever heard these stories about Lavi's philosophy that year around Dry Island. He was basically, come up to the dry board here and put your name on the board if you're going to subscribe to Dry Island, saying we got a good, honest team here. We're going to make a push to make the playoffs and potentially make a run here. It was just his way of trying to get guys to commit. So say we're not going to drink for the next few months because we're committed to the team and to the dream. I'm not putting my name up on the board.
Right.
I'll be lying to my teammates. I'm not going to drink from now and then. But in the back of my mind, it definitely kept me honest to whoa, the Dry Island must be something. Even though I was still drinking because I wasn't really playing, I didn't really feel like I was that huge part of the team. Warmed up every game, but I think that whole year of not playing. Taking every warm up of the season, still getting bag skated, and still doing all the training. I actually started losing some weight that year, almost to the point, in a good way, in a healthy way, being functional as a fighter, functional as a hockey player, more importantly. But I started okay, well, am I gonna be able to fight the heavyweights? Because he was we want our players lean and all this stuff. And great, of course. If I was a coach, that's the way I'd want my players. I was fat. I was 215 pounds, carrying on an extra 30 pounds. That whole year, I think it was just like the whole season was like one of these like wake up calls where what you know what I mean? Like, what are you doing with your life? Is this what you're chasing? Is this the life that you want to live? Almost every day. Is this what you want? Is this still in alignment with your dream and your vision growing up? Like, I'm 4 or 5 years old looking at the Winnipeg Jets at the time and saying, I want to be an NHL hockey player. I want to be Teemu Selanne. I want to be Wayne Gretzky or Mark Messier, scoring 50 goals a year, making a lot of money. But that wasn't in the cards for me. I didn't have that much ability. I was fighting out of survival.
Though, man, you were a name though, because you're one guy. Maybe it's because I was a fighter. I was always looking for the fighters.
Yeah,
I always remember you. You know what I mean? Like, and people love you. You know what I mean? You were a fighter. So what creates not to get off this topic right here, but what creates a fight? Like when you're in a hockey game, do you just look at the biggest guy or something? Do you know what makes you know you're going to get in a fight with that guy, or you're going to go after him, or what? How's a hockey fight start?
Sure. Well, there's a few things there. Obviously, doing your homework. You know who the toughest guys on their team, right? I mean, like you need to know that.
Sure.
You look at the guy with the most penalty minutes, and you just look at their fight card. And you know pretty quickly. And then, size. A couple guys are sleepers. Maybe a 6'4", 6'5" guy doesn't fight a whole lot, but you still got to be careful, right? You still got to be mindful. So knowing who you potentially could be mucking it up with is important. And then it's just based on the individual game itself. Like a lot of times, especially early on in my career in new leagues, you want to establish some street cred. So it's like if I'm playing you, your Pittsburgh Penguins or whoever, a division rival, like I already know you.
Right.
And I know probably my first shift or first period somewhere, like we're getting after it because we need to do our job. We need to kind of like
what
level
gets
up.
it? Like some little edge or some bumps into you? Like how's it all of a sudden you start winging?
I would say like the simplest way to describe, like if you're a heavyweight, I'm a heavyweight on the opponent, like it'd be like we're lining up on the face-off, or if we landed up on the ice at the same time during the play, we would just be like just find the guy, be like, let's go. It's really like that simple. It's like, let's do it. Let's do it. Because he knows, I know.
So you're both looking for it at some point in the game. When's the right time to fight?
Exactly. Both gamers. And usually it's like early in the game to get the energy going, get the building into it, right? Everyone's, going crazy. So he knows, I know. We're all on the same page. Usually
have you knocked someone out on the ice?
Oh, yeah.
Damn.
And I've gotten knocked out.
Huh?
Oh, and I've gotten knocked out.
You have?
Oh, yeah. So I mean, it goes both ways. But then, so that would be like the easiest way for two heavyweights to establish the energy and some street credit. The other two really are cheap shots, taking liberties on your teammates. So if a guy gets run, or your Claude Giroux or whoever gets stuck, or cheap shot or whatever, then it's like, okay, I got to go address it. I got to go play policeman. I got to go talk to the guy that did it. And generally, if I go talk to the guy that did it, it's probably not their tough guy or enforcer, but he comes in, steps in.
And it's the words. So,
it's like, so I'm the bodyguard basically. So I'm fighting the same guy anyways.
Right.
So that would be like protecting your teammate, which is why we were there in the first place, not just to go and fight, right? It's to protect the teammates. That was always why enforcers existed. And then I guess the other way would be like, say we're down 2 goals in Pittsburgh.
Sure.
Boys need a spark.
Yeah.
Okay, Riley, get out there, go get a big hit. Stir the pot, go poke the hornet's nest, and and create some energy.
Yeah.
So the easiest way to do that would, getting the big hit's not always that easy, but it's poking the goalie. If you want to piss the team off, poke the goalie. So
when you started hockie, did you want to be the enforcer, the boxer fighter, or it just happened?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's just something I had. Well, I didn't have to do anything. No one put a gun to my head, but I chose to because
awesome,
that was I needed to live out my childhood dream, right? But growing up, like I was on the street playing in pond hockey. I was Wayne Gretzky. I was Teemu Selanne. I was scoring 50, 60 goals. But as I mentioned earlier, individual talent was maxed out as far as a hockey player goes. I realized in the pool of the world, I'm not that good at hockey. I could skate well enough. I can keep up speed-wise. I was an athlete. I was competitive, but I had to do something more, and that was why I took on the role. I had to do something more.
So with hockey, I mean, in the fighting, because that's the thing. Everybody goes to the game to see a fight. Really, it's like they're going to fight. So is there a training method for this? Because I wanted to put on these hockey fights on, right? These hockey brawl. I'm talking, that's what me and Frank Bialow talking. I'd love to, obviously talk to you about not fighting, but getting involved. But is there a training method for fighting on skates? Is there like a way you train for this, or it's just like you just start winging punches?
Well, I think that was the way first started, right? Broad Street Bullies, like
Yeah,
Dave
yeah.
the Hammer Schultz and these
Sure,
guys. They
man,
weren't
that's something,
training.
yeah.
They weren't training to be hockey fighters. Were just tough dudes,
Right.
and it was just part of the game, right? I think, and they weren't even training specifically for hockey back in the day. That the whole training thing kind of evolved with the times. Then all of a sudden, they got more sport specific to hockey training. And then the fighters, like myself, I'm not gonna say I was the first guy to train to be a fighter, but I was one of the earlier guys that started, thinking outside the box and hired, a Brazilian jiu-jitsu coach, or you know what I mean, and found different coaches that would replicate the hockey fight and train specific to that.
Now, do you think like this could be like the future of it? Like all the hockey players train or the enforcers train, then it goes out and you'll see a bigger fight happen on the ice. What do you think?
Well, I mean, a bigger fight, like a better fight?
Well, if you say it'd be like, damn, they're training for this now. They're going to go at it at some point in this game. And they're going to start winging bombs, or not jiu-jitsu because it wouldn't work. They start punching. Now bare knuckle, boxing, it all fits into hockey fights now,
Well, it does, and and if you're a paid professional hockey player that has the role of an NHL enforcer, naturally you would want to work on your craft. So you're going to go find all the best coaches and teachers, right, to just to make yourself be in the best position to not lose fights and to win fights, right,
Absolutely.
and just to protect yourself and all that good stuff. So I think naturally most of these guys do. The problem is that the NHL is weaning out fighting.
Right.
They've been doing that since I retired. Oh yeah. So like,
why? They want to see more skill, or what?
Well, they want to see more skill, but I think there's
no one wants
liability.
To see that. No one wants to see.
I know, and I do appreciate the level of skill now,
I
but
do
it's
too.
gone
Yeah,
so
yeah.
far away from the
course.
rugged old school way of playing hockey, where it's not even about the fight. It's just about playing with that edge, playing with that chip on your shoulder, hitting, right? Hitting, getting, finishing your check. You don't see many hits anymore, but they phased out the fighting. There's maybe, I would say, 6 legit heavyweights in the league left. And I was fighting. My goal was always to get the 30 fights a year, fighting majors, 30 fighting majors a year.
That's interesting.
The highest fighting majors in the season at under 10 now.
So what would you give a hockey player as an enforcer for other leagues? What kind of tips would you give them?
In this era right now, I mean, certainly learn how to fight in some sort of defensive manner. I was so offensive. I was just like, again, all jacked up on stimulants where I could take 10 punches.
Love that.
But
I take this fat burner. It's called Stacker 2.
Okay.
Hypes me up just a little bit. There's no ephedra in it.
Okay.
I need that to train every day. But go ahead.
Yeah, but it's similar, right? Because I would just go in there. I was
Yeah.
like, it's like street brawling. It was like Frankie, right? Like Frankie was no defense.
Yeah.
But like these younger guys, and being mindful of the mental health and the brain health now. Back in the day, it was archaic. Everyone knew getting punched in the head it wasn't good for you.
Right.
But now it's being more mindful of that. You can still be tough. You can still be aggressive. You can still pack a punch, but like a little more emphasis on protecting the chin and not taking so many blows.
Right.
Just being a little bit more of a wise fighter, I guess, would probably be my advice. And then, not that I'm going to tell a guy to be a spot picker, but just choose your battles a little wiser than I did. Like, you don't I say this now. I probably didn't have to fight as much as I did.
Sure.
I could have preserved myself probably and been a little more selectful. But that was the way I was wired. I was like going guns and blazing every game. I was like, hey, I know I'm fighting, so let's go and go generate it. It would just be a little bit wiser, wise effort.
Well, let's go to another point, man. I know you're a fighter. I know you're a fighter at heart. I know you're a fighter in life. And I'm really, I feel like me and you could talk for hours about this mental health.
Yeah.
I know we're going to do some stuff together. I know it took time.
Yeah.
I know we're going to do something. You know what I mean? Not you fighting, hosting, the whole mental health thing. We have our fight coming up in June for mental health awareness. Ric Flair's hosting it. Love to have you involved.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, man, so you told me about CBD and the cannabis. Why is that such a big help into the mental health awareness? Like, why does it help you?
Yeah, so I would say, to preface it, like, it's a tool in the toolbox, right? It's not the only tool, but it's an extremely powerful tool, useful tool if used appropriately. So I would say for not just athletes, not just fighters, for just the general population, we're all managing stress, right?
Sure.
It was really just the battle versus stress and how we can manage stress. Anxiety comes with stress.
Absolutely.
And sleep is affected by mismanagement or management of stress.
Yeah.
We sleep the best when we can relax, right? So everyone has to go through that. We call that recovery process. So whether you're an athlete or not, you're still in the recovery mode. Your body's healing when you sleep. The problem is most people don't know how to manage stress, take on more stress than they can process or self-regulate. So what happens when you get stressed out? And the nervous system gets fried, more anxiety, less sleep, wake up in the morning, more stimulants, more addictions, and more, you know what I mean? The mind is now unsettled because it's not rested. So the mind is more active, seeking pleasure or seeking stimulants or seeking other things, right? So the mind is now unhealthy because it's not calm and it's not sleeping properly and the body's not self-regulated. So cannabis historically has always been an amazing tool for relaxation. Right? People are like, oh, I'm just going to use a little cannabis. I'm going to soften.
What kind though? What's a good CBD to take, you know?
Well, I would say like historically cannabis, pre-prohibition, the THC levels were a lot lower than they are today.
Right.
Prohibition drove everything indoors, underground, and drove the THC content up and drove the CBD content out. Then, fast forward 75 years or so of, prohibition, where there started to get legalization, new legislation. This farm bill passed where it allowed CBD to be sold legally as long as it was grown below 0.3% THC. And THC is the compound that gets you high that people are most familiar with.
Okay, that's what I want to ask you real fast.
Yeah.
Not to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Because that's the whole thing. The only reason I would never take CBD, I don't want to be like high, like smoking a joint. You know what I mean? That's what people I think when you're doing CBD, like you're going to smoke marijuana or something. I don't know anything about that, but that's what my fear was. But I heard it's great.
Yeah,
CBD.
so it could be both sides of it. I mean, people get a ton of relief by smoking cannabis, marijuana, cannabis. But there's a lot of people that don't want the headiness and don't want the high. And I think this is where CBD and some of these minor cannabinoids, CBG, they're highly anti-inflammatory. They promote neurogenesis. So they're great for the brain. They're great for full body inflammation. So naturally they take that edge off. They soften the stress. They help you relax and they help you sleep without the headiness. So there's this world of cannabis-based products that don't get you high. That for the general population that doesn't want that effect, here you go. High CBD products, super low THC, under 0.3% THC.
Damn.
And then you got some people that CBD is not enough. They need a little bit of THC, and there's like that world for that. But you talk about delivery systems. Yeah, smoking flower has been around forever, and there's always going to be people that do that. But you talk about delivery systems with edibles, tinctures, oil-based tinctures, transdermal patches, anti-inflammatory, specific to the area of inflammation. And there's several other ones too, suppositories, depending on what you're dealing with. So like it is medicine, right? At the end of the day, we've just bastardized it. Now we're legalizing cannabis on recreational levels. Now it's becoming bastardized like tobacco and lumped in with cannabis or with alcohol. Do you have your
own company? Or you endorse a company?
Not right now. I did have my own CBD company. I know exactly. But I am still in cannabis and work as a consultant. I'm involved in a cultivation facility in New Jersey and working on a couple other plays in Delaware and PA. But so I'm heavily still involved in it. I've built out a cannabis program for the Flyers alumni, specific to being personalized and customized to take the guesswork out of what works for you. But what I've learned is that the science supports these experiences that people have been having forever. It's just there's a lot of baggage, political baggage around cannabis of what it is and what it's not. Right, the devil's lettuce. It's like, actually, it's not the devil's lettuce, but it can be on some level if you just smoke weed all day long and do nothing. You know what I mean? It's not going to help support your wellness. But if you use it mindfully, as we talked about, like intentionally, know the dose, know what you're taking. It could be highly, highly beneficial for not just recovery and relaxation, but productivity. Because once you feel better and you rest better and you recover better, you naturally perform better. Yeah, no matter what world you're in.
I really appreciate those tips on that because it gave me an idea. I was waiting to talk to you about this. I know we'll talk off this, but you're real brilliant with all this. And so, what's next for Riley Cote?
Well, I think my vision is, so I'm a yogi. I teach yoga. Obviously practice yoga. I teach meditation, rhythmic mindfulness, teach drumming, meditation and drumming. That's like the action part. I always believe like if you want to be well, mentally well, emotionally well, spiritually well, you have to have some ownership in it, right?
Yeah.
The body has to move. That's what yoga is, right? It's movement. Well, that's part of it. The asana, the movement part is to keep the body in prime condition, the spine in proper health, and moving energy so that the body is taken care of. So when the body is flushed of stress
Yeah.
and inflammation, the mind can settle. Naturally, the mind settles when the body settles.
And you really studied this for a while, huh?
Forever. I mean, this
You know what,
is like
just
my life. Yeah.
Just getting to talk to you, man. Like, we met a few times, but man, I really appreciate you now because I'm understanding, I mean, you really understand this. And like the mental health awareness, people don't understand. I mean, there's people suffering out there, man. When I see someone's kids take their lives, man, I get sick. I'll be honest
That's
with you.
terrible.
Because you have to be there and things, your little tips you're saying makes me understand things more. And I really do appreciate you coming on today because I know we could talk for hours about this, and I'm excited and I'm hoping, we could do a mental health awareness event or get you involved. And, I won't even need much from you just to be involved a little. And, you could definitely educate people, especially with the CBD stuff. This is educating me myself. And I'm not into smoking weed, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I heard if you take CBD, it's not weed.
Yeah.
But there was a couple times people told me they took CBD, then they got stopped by a cop, and they basically got a
misdemeanor
DWI or some stupid stuff.
Really? Yeah.
Something like that.
I mean, I'd have to verify the stories. There's a lot of people that's like also have said they've taken CBD and failed the drug test, and there's like this fine line of like, are they telling the absolute truth? But like. Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, there still is some level of federal prohibition around cannabis. Definitely. So they are still, still trying to screw with people around that. I think slowly but surely that is dissipating. The law enforcement is less, involved in cracking down on cannabis.
Well, they would have helped because a lot of these police officers, and I'm a big supporter of the police, they need help too. Because they have to. They must be seeing crazy things too, and going. Everybody go through stuff, especially nowadays. Everybody's going through something. I don't care what anybody says.
Exactly.
It's a fight. The fight is nonstop.
It's nonstop, and all across the board. To your point, no matter what industry you're in, the fight is real, right? Yeah. We're just like as a living organism,
Absolutely.
just to like stay alive and be well is a fight. Let alone like navigate economics in this world, but. I think as I was talking about before, like learning how to lean on your own spine, that's the ownership piece, right? That's like on you. We have to take care of the body. And then there's supplements. There's like things along the way. Mother Nature has blessed us with a lot of these tools, and these are in the toolbox as far as like the outside of ourselves, right? We can lean on these things as crutches and support systems. Sure. But we're not going to supplement our way out of this mental health and a health crisis, right? This is where the ownership has to come back to the person and do enough to support their mental health.
So again, do you do any public speaking about this?
I do. Yeah,
I would love to talk about us doing some stuff.
Let's do it.
Some other people. We do a summit, the mental health summit. Man, we would change lives with this. I'm a fighter. I'm a boxer. Mm-hmm. You're a hockey player. We're both fighters at heart and in life. Mm-hmm. Man, this is really got me thinking tonight, man. And I really appreciate you coming on today. Celebrity Fight Club podcast, and there's gonna be more and more. So
100%. But looking forward to it. You got a huge platform. You're doing a great thing, and I'd love to support you in any way I can. So
the one and only Riley Cote, man, former Philadelphia Flyers, great guy in life, mental health advocate, I should say, right? And you'll see more of him. So on the Celebrity Fight Club podcast, Riley Cote.